Hello and welcome to Combat Spuds, the weekly combat sports roundup brought to you by the Midweek Mashed Tattie Sportscast. My name's Mick, and as always, I'm joined by Harvey and Paul. How's it going, lads?
All good, man, all good. How are you?
I'm all good. Paul?
Well, let me tell you something, brother. I am absolutely exhausted. My daughter's 16th birthday this weekend, and I have ferried more teenage girls back and forward to places than I ever want to ever again. Tired, but at least I got this funky cool pink hat out of it. If you're obviously you're not watching, but if imagine a lovely cool pink hat, and I am fucking rocking it, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice. Oh dear. For the listeners, Paul is now wearing said funky pink hat.
It's kind of like a dunce hat for back in the day, but it's jazzy.
It is. It's like a dunce hat for... I'm not going to say... I'm going to stop myself there before I get in trouble.
I am the combat sports dunce. Let's be honest. I've said it for you. You didn't argue it.
So, on the show today, recaps. Breaking fights down galore. No much no news or anything else. So, let's get it on. So, the only real news kind of just blends straight into the sort of first set of recaps. The previously spoken about Global Titans boxing show, which featured at the top of the card Floyd Money Mayweather and yet another exhibition match, for reasons went ahead yesterday for us, so Saturday the 21st, Saturday 21st, with little fanfare. Like, I didn't see any promotion that it was going ahead or anything. It just sort of happened. I don't even think it was on the... It looked to me like it was in an arena. It didn't appear to be on top of no rooftop.
I was going to say, that was a very unusual rooftop with a roof on it.
So, I'm assuming they moved it, but there seems to be very little information out there about it. Very strange. Nonetheless, it did happen. I've seen some highlights of the Mayweather fight and of the Anderson Silva fight. So we can talk a wee bit about them. Boys, have you seen much of it?
I'm not going to lie, I concentrated mostly on the Mayweather fight just out of curiosity. I assumed that Anderson Silva would look like a handy big bugger as he always does, defying age. Would that be correct?
Yep, that sums it up pretty well. Harvey, yourself?
I literally just watched the Anderson Silva one.
Oh, opposite.
Oh, he went the opposite way.
He went for
that works.
He went for the fighters kind of way.
I don't give a fuck about the Floyd Mayweather one. That has, for years, his stuff has just been fanning about in the ring. Like,
raw honesty from Harvey as always.
I mean, like...
So let's talk about the Mayweather fight first. Pretty much just seemed like a bit of fun, a sparring match really for him, wasn't it?
I had a good wee laugh. He definitely had a good wee laugh. There wasn't much what you would call kind of malice in the fight. It looked like two mates having a wee laugh, but getting paid a hell of a lot of money for it.
Yep. Aye, it was like a slightly competitive sparring match. He was dancing in between rounds and whatnot.
He was doing the ring card kind of job as well, I noticed. Took the ring card off of the girl that was doing it. Shows you just how much he was kind of working when he's dancing between rounds.
It's very strange, man, this stage of Mayweather's career. I wonder how much weight there is to the rumours of him having effectively no money, and he just does these exhibition fights, gets paid a ton of money, and then that sort of helps him make his bills for a few months, and then he takes another one. Yeah.
I mean, how is that possible in this day and age with the amount of money he's made over his life? What does he do with his money?
Expensive cars.
I'm sure he's made well over a billion across his...
How do you piss a billion up the wall?
Oh,
I mean, I'm sure you can.
You could. That's easy.
Conceivably.
Renting some of these high-end places. Like, some places, I mean, like here in the Cayman Islands, man, there's some places where the rent is literally, for the month, is like 60 grand, 70 grand.
Sweet Jesus, man.
Like, so in America, where they have these massive big mansions and stuff, like, yeah, you think about that, like, the expensive restaurants where he goes to any parties, where a bottle of champagne is 10 grand up. Like, and he's buying 5, 6, 7 of them. Plus, you have to pay gratuity on that.
Oh, I bet aye.
I can see an argument that everything adds up, right? And he's got this lavish lifestyle, but there's no reason he shouldn't be able to manage his money. I get how it's possible to spend all that money.
Right, okay.
What the hell is he like, who's running about him that's just letting him date? Like, surely somebody has to say to him, mate, do you think at this point in life you want to just keep some of that money by? Like, you can't keep doing exhibitions forever.
That one person is getting outweighed by the many other people who are saying, I just want to do this and do that. And, logically, you should still have money.
You would think so, but aye.
What I think is, I don't think he's like going to go bankrupt. What I think is that he's just doing these exhibitions to uphold the lifestyle that he's living.
Aye.
I'm pretty sure that if he stopped living the way he is now, he could survive the rest of his life very comfortably still with a lot of money in his bank. I was going to say in his pocket, but same thing.
I get when sports stars go crazy when they first make big money. You know what I mean? When the first time they make $1 million or whatever it is. But you would think for somebody like Mayweather, who's been making so much money for so long now, that at some point he would have matured enough where he was like, right, it's time to stop living like I've got an unlimited amount of money. Let's just rein it back in and live like I'm a millionaire. You know what I mean?
Aye.
He can still live a crazy lifestyle and never run out of money.
Yep.
But I mean, you used to hear stories about him like having a car. He had, what was it? I think it was a Bentley, I think it was like a Bentley Continental or something, Bentley Continental GT or something, and he had one for every day of the week. Some nonsense like that.
Aye, and they're nearly $1 million, aren't they?
Aye, they're up about there. I think at the time when he would have been buying them, the Bugatti Veyron would have been the most expensive production car at, I think, just over $1 million. So, I mean, even if it's $500,000 each, it's a stupid amount of money for needless reasons. Anyway, let's not get bogged down in this.
Aye.
The other sort of big fight of that card was Anderson Silva having another boxing match. Worth noting that all these fights were exhibition bouts. So this doesn't count towards Anderson Silva's professional record. But he did take on a guy called Bruno Machado, who was a MMA fighter from Brazil, as is Anderson Silva originally. Well, I suppose not originally, because originally he was a Thai boxer, but anyway. Machado does not quite have the pedigree of Anderson Silva in terms of striking, and it was quite clear in this fight that Anderson Silva was the better fighter. But he looked sensational, I have to say. It looked like he was the seasoned pro boxer taking on the MMA guy that was trying to step into boxing. Like, he looked a proper boxer. He looked really good.
Aye, Anderson Silva, aye, he did. He looked brilliant. So he did stick and move. I don't know. That was.
It's good coaching points there, Harvey. Good coaching points.
No, it was good, man. It was good.
I feel like had that been a professional bout, Anderson Silva would have got a stoppage victory.
Probably.
I think with that being an exhibition, because you saw, I think it was round 6 or 7, I can't quite remember now, he knocked Machado down. I feel like the following round, he would probably have went for the finish, big style, had it been a pro bout, but because it was an exhibition, it didn't really matter so much. He just wanted to look good effectively. You know what I mean? He's getting paid either way, so, and there's no victor, there's no winners declared because it is an exhibition. So
the point isn't any of it then, like, just money,
aye, on them zeros.
It's not a sport for me, but never mind.
But it's different for like the Mayweather fight. With Anderson Silva, he's early days in terms of his boxing career.
It's more experience.
So it's time in the ring for him. And it's building his platform so that he can get bigger fights, because the whole thing of him being in boxing, if we're being realistic, is just to get big fights, big name fights, make big money. He's
pretty much.
I mean, he might, maybe in his head he thinks he can be a champion, but realistically he's no chasing any belts anytime soon.
No.
So it's all notoriety, fame, fortune.
He did look jacked too.
He looked thick.
Mm-hmm.
He did. He looked easy 2 weight classes above Machado.
I mean, when I looked, I was like, is that Anderson Silva? I was like, yes, it is Anderson Silva. Like, woofed. He's got big, man.
He looked bigger than when he stepped up to light heavyweight in the UFC. So he looked every bit of heavyweight. So, I think that's enough on that. Let's leave that there. We will move on to One Championship 157. It was Morocco versus Vino in the main event. Coming at you live and in colour from Singapore as it normally does. And it was a pretty damn good card, I've got to say. I really enjoyed most of the fights. It wasn't chock a block with sort of big names and stuff, certainly to the Western world, but I mean, you had some legends of Thai boxing and stuff like that. Phenomenal grappling matches. There was a lot to love. Harvey, I'm assuming you will have seen most, if not all of it.
I watched most of it, yeah.
Most of it.
I woke up at 5 o'clock instead of 4, so in the morning.
Jeez,
So missed the first hour and forgot to go back and watch it after work.
God damn. That's some prep.
For what I saw, the prelim fights, they were like no bad, but I don't think you missed too much necessarily.
Oh.
But there were some damn good fights. Paul, did you caught some of it, I believe?
I'm not going to lie, lads. I am a total Rodtang stan, so that is what I concentrated on, which was the Rodtang fight. That was an absolute treat.
Okay, cool. So a big part of the card was the Thai boxing tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
So there was the flyweight World Grand Prix quarterfinals and the featherweight, I think. Is that right?
I'm assuming it's featherweight if Rodtang, isn't it?
Oh no, featherweight title fight was the main event. That's what it was. Rodtang's flyweight. So it was the flyweight. I will remember.
Of course,
fighting Demetrius Johnson flyweight.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it was the. I'm getting confused because the main event was the featherweight.
You had featherweight, strawweight, and flyweight.
So the Grand Prix fights that were happening were for the flyweight Grand Prix. Before we just go on to that, on the undercard, the featherweight kickboxing match between David Kira and Mohamed Boutassa.
Oh, aye.
Boutassa looked amazing. That guy is a beast of a kickboxer.
Mm-hmm.
I was blown away by that, man. Like he's so unassuming looking. He's just this like big, long, lanky guy who, I mean, he looks in reasonable shape, but he's got that kind of baby face about him, and I don't know. He just doesn't look like a hard nosed fighter or anything, but he is skilled.
Aye,
he picked Kira apart, man.
Mm-hmm. And David Kira, he's no
slouch.
Aye, he's aye.
He is the type that looks like hard nosed. The dude's tough, man. And he kept coming, like he didn't like just curl up in a ball. He kept coming. The fight went the distance, but Boutassa, man, that's a world champion in the making. He looked good.
Oh, aye.
It's the thing with these Muay Thai guys, they always keep coming, man. I've got to say, I'm growing a great appreciation for Muay Thai through one.
Muay Thai and kickboxing.
You do not get a boring fight, man.
Aye, they're always fun.
That's the thing.
It helps that they've got shorter rounds. Like, you need the longer rounds in MMA because of the grappling aspect.
Aye.
But when it's purely striking, 3-minute rounds are epic.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason boxing's stuck with 3-minute rounds for all these years. It allows the fighters to push that wee bit harder. Like, you can have that wee bit more action in a round without them gassing out. So the Grand Prix fights, we had Savas Mikhail, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it or not, versus Amir Naziri. And it was Savas picking up the unanimous decision win there. Then we had Superlek versus Naito. So it was a Thai versus a Japanese fellow. That was a fun fight, that one, man.
That was a good day.
Superlek picking up the decision in that one. Then we had Josu Cruz versus Walter Goncalves. Goncalves looked fucking handy in that, man.
Aye. But
that can punch.
That gut punch, pow!
Aye.
Cruz is like,
shut the liver off.
He shriveled up
hit the
into
liver and shut the body off.
That hit the liver and he's off.
They then took a wee break from the Grand Prix and we had a couple of grappling matches. So just a quick nod to the twins that Rotolo, I believe it's pronounced. Rotolo twins. Are they from Hawaii? Is that right? How do you know, Harvey? I think I feel like they're from Hawaii originally.
I can't remember, actually.
Nevertheless, man, they lads are the next generation of submission grappling. They are amazing. Cade, who I think is the younger brother, but I could be wrong, he took on Shinya Aoki, who is an absolute legend in Japanese MMA and submission grappling himself. I believe he's like high level black belt in judo and I want to say both Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. He's an absolute martial artist, like lifelong kind of thing. Like he's incredibly skilled and knowledgeable. Storied MMA career. He's had some crazy fights. He's fought everybody, man, across multiple weight divisions, countries all around the world. Like he had big fights in Pride, big fights in Dream. Went and fought in Bellator. I think he fought in Strikeforce at one point. Absolute legend. And Cade Rotolo was not phased at all, and was just attacking him the whole time.
All over him, man.
Didn't quite get a submission, but he did take a decision win because it was just all him. Aoki couldn't do anything but defend. And then we had the other Rotolo and Ty Rotolo taking on Gary the Line Killer. Line Killer Tonin. Gary Tonin he was until very, very recently thought of as the best grappler ever. Gary Tonin is amazing. He's really, really good. Known specifically for leg locks, but he's just phenomenal at submission grappling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu all over. He's really good. He comes for the Danaher hit squad. He's trained by John Danaher, who himself comes for Henzo Gracie. That team of guys is just otherworldly, man. And Ty just handled him. I was blown away.
Minutes,
I was impressed by what Cade did with Aoki, but at least with Aoki you can say, well, he's had this long career, he's in his 40s, etc. You can make up reasons for why Aoki didn't look his best. But Ty Rotolo absolutely handled Gary Tonin, and that guy is Gary Tonin's like the Anderson Silva of grappling, like Anderson Silva at his peak in UFC. That's like where Gary Tonin was in grappling, just mystifying and untouchable. And Ty Rotolo just went through.
Cade Rotolo, man, I think he got to was it ADCC? I think it was the semis or something like that at 16 years old.
It's what? So in the senior division at 16?
Aye.
Wow. So these two are just prodigies, man.
Aye. They've been training since they're 3 or something, but
right, okay.
I mean, they're amazing. I mean, Cade going up against Shinya, Shinya's been training in BJJ and I think and Japanese as well, longer than they've been alive.
Aye.
You know what I mean?
Aoki's been a martial artist longer than they've been alive. Aye, which is mental. And he's probably been a pro fighter longer than they've been adults as well.
Aye.
Just wild.
Did you see the interview after with Tyrotolo?
No, I don't believe I watched the interviews.
Oh, that was funny. So the interview, So the guy, whoever it is that was interviewing him for one, I don't know his name. He came in and he was like, "Oh, it was great, this and that," and he's like, "And you got him with the Darth choke. Are you sure it wasn't an anaconda?" And like Ty just laughed. He was like, "Ha, no, it's a Darth. That's my specialty, mate." Like, I was like, "Oh my god, did this guy really just try and ask this guy what he submitted to me?" Like, oh god.
It's kind of your job as a commentator to understand what's happening.
Aye.
Don't question it.
He's like, "Are you sure you want on the other side?" And he's like, "Nah." He's like, "Nah."
I mean, if anybody's even remotely interested in submission grappling, I would highly recommend checking out they two lads, the Rodtang twins.
Both on YouTube.
Watch their highlight reels on YouTube. Look at their videos where they explain the moves and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're epic. They really are. So then we had back into the Grand Prix for the Flyweight Muay Thai World Grand Prix, and we had the Rodtang fight. So we had Rodtang taking on Jacob Smith for the UK. Rodtang, it was just amazing, wasn't he? It was an absolute masterclass for him.
So the thing is, like, Rodtang kind of like switched up his game a bit. Mm-hmm. He actually came out in the first round and was like, "Right, come on then."
Aye, he was aggressive in the first round, which is not like him.
And then he was just
stamp on it straight away, didn't
he? He just started wheeling him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the elbows, which he usually doesn't need, it's like in the third round, but he's just smashing him with elbows and just like,
it was unreal.
He doesn't even look like he's trying to knock him out. He's just like trying. Looks like he's trying to hurt him.
Just literally enjoying himself. What is it they call it in Muay Thai? Is it the 8 weapons of Muay Thai? Isn't it? Which is obviously both hands, both elbows, both knees, both feet.
So Muay Thai is known as the art of 8 limbs.
Aye.
Mm-hmm.
That is a man who understands that beautifully. I've never seen a guy's face look like that and still be standing. Fair play to the British fella for staying up. Like,
the heart to keep going, man. But
it looked like he'd been shot in the face by the finish. It was horrible. Just blood down the middle of his face and then eye either side. It was what an absolute destruction.
Yep.
It really was.
I was very interested in that, like, or intrigued, I should say, because, like, I've spoke before how traditionally Thai boxers from Thailand start slow, and Rodtang has been to this point the epitome of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, normally he's a slow starter, has a bit of fun with it, gets his timing, and then second round he'll start to apply a bit of pressure and kind of go for it. In a 3-round fight, if it's a 5-round fight, then it's sort of 3rd, 4th round before he's really going full pelt. And if it's a 5-rounder, he would then ease back off for the 5th round. That's another thing that's kind of tradition with the Thais. The 3rd and the 4th round in a 5-round fight, Swittercoons, they take it easy in the 5th round. It's a different thing over there, man. It's strange.
It's just funny because you'll talk about that in a minute.
but Rodtang, god damn, he went for it, man.
Absolute
and
phenom.
it looked amazing, utterly amazing. They then had the strawweight Muay Thai world title on the line. Bit of an upset here.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Paranchai Pique Sanchai defending his title against Joseph Laziri from Morocco. Or, well, Italy by the way of Morocco, or Morocco by the way of Italy. I'm not quite sure.
I don't know. They just say, when they announce it, they just say he fights for Italy and Morocco.
All right.
That's the way they
He must have a mixed heritage or something. I don't know where he currently resides. I was a bit confused actually, because it looked to me like there was a couple of guys in his corner that were kind of Moroccan looking, but then they seem to be talking Italian.
Aye.
So I was a wee bit confuzzled myself, like, when I was watching the film. I was like, what? Hold on, where's he from again? But aye, so I don't want to say this should have been a walkover for Sanchez or anything, but I was very surprised that no so much. But I was very surprised that Laziri won, I suppose, but more so in the way he won, in the way he performed.
Aye. Yep. If you asked 100 fans who's going to win that, I'm pretty sure about 98 of them would say Sanchez. But it's the way it goes in combat sports, isn't it?
Yep.
Sometimes it could be something that happened the night before, the night of, a couple of days. I mean, Sanchez just didn't look himself. That's not to take anything away from Laziri though, because he actually he was pretty good. So he was. He was picking him apart, really, to be honest. And then Sanchez, and I mean, in between the third and the fourth round, he just said, "No, I can't go on."
Which is wild.
Aye.
Which actually had me thinking, has he come into this with injury, or is he betting himself to lose, or like what? I say that somewhat jokingly. Like, it was strange. Like, I mean, his face was bossed up. Like, he had a few cuts on him and stuff, but it was just
strange,
odd,
especially for a Thai fighter as well.
Aye,
they usually don't give up until. I mean, but they don't give up until they're told. Like,
aye. Thai boxers from Thailand are like notoriously tough and hard headed. It was weird, but I mean, hats off to Laziri. He looked really good.
Aye.
And then we of course had the main event, and that was Butch Morocco versus Jimmy Vino, and this was the featherweight title. So there was a lot of Thai boxing on this card for whatever reason. They decided to go heavy on the Thai boxing this week. I don't know. And that was a split decision win from Butch Morocco, and that was quite an interesting fight. It was this one, obviously it was 5-rounder for the title, and it was kind of fought more, Butch Morocco fought a bit more of a kind of traditional Thai style, and sort of just did enough to take a split decision win, whereas Jimmy Vino was fighting more like Western style, and he was just kind of trying to push the whole way. It's funny because, like, when you think about it and you kind of take a step back and it's like, right, Butch Morocco was like effectively really only trying 100% for a small part of the fight. You know what I mean?
Aye.
Like, surely he could just try a bit harder and then maybe finish the guy.
See, this was, I was thinking the same thing, like, especially in round 5, I was like, come on, man. Now you can see Butch Morocco was just like easing off, just like, dancing a bit, and I'm like, you could actually lose this fight, you know that, right? If he, this is very close. I mean, what gave him the advantage was he knocked Vino down.
Yep.
In round 3, was it?
3, I think.
That's the only thing that had him ahead at the time. And it's like, if Jimmy comes back and it knocks you down or whatever, it's, you could lose this fight very easily. And to ease off like that, especially in the 5th round, when he could have just been a little bit more aggressive just to secure the win, you know. But I mean, he did it in the end. But I mean, you could argue for Jimmy to have won that.
Aye, there was a legitimate argument that Vino won because he was more active. He wasn't always landing the cleaner strikes, but he was throwing, and he was landing most of what he's throwing and stuff. You know what I mean? It's bizarre to me that it's just ingrained in them, I think, for a young age, and that's just the way they fight. I don't really have much else to say, man. It's funny, but you have to wonder, like, what could these sort of really high level ties, what could they achieve if they didn't have that style? Like, if they just went gung ho, if they just full on went for it, like, would they just be finishing everybody? Or do they win a lot because they kind of they draw something out of the other guys because they seem to be taking it easy and having a laugh with it, and then that gets in their opponent's seats.
Them,
I don't know. Anywho, before we move on to the UFC, I do believe Paul has a fire that needs putting out.
Oh, it's another fire in these loins, I'll tell you. It's for your very man, Rodtang, however. I have some questions in general about this guy, as far as MMA goes. If you get him in a position where he is comfortable defending himself on the ground, how far would he go as an MMA fighter? And B, would he receive the same love if he went to the western side of the world, where his division isn't really as big of a deal as it is where he is currently fighting? Would he carry the... I mean, obviously he's absolutely loved where he is currently. And in that side of the world, he's a very big... I mean, it's like, as I was saying earlier, lads, he's a legend and he's just a young guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose it's a three-pronged question at the end there, isn't it? Like, he's young enough to learn. Could he learn and then have a successful career? Is it worth it for him? And would he get the same kind of love?
So, quick bit of context, and then I'll let Harvey go first. Let's just suppose it's second, and then I'll go third. I don't know. Just go
back and forth.
Prongs all over the place.
So, Rodtang is a sort of multiple-time world champion as a Thai boxer, currently obviously signed with one championship. He's the current flyweight champ. Obviously, they're doing this Grand Prix to, I guess... It's weird. It's a wee bit weird to me when Bellator's done the same. Pride used to do it. They have tournaments that include the champions, and the whole idea is kind of to crown, not to crown, to find a challenger for the champion, but the champions in the tournament too, and then have a tournament champion and a champion, and
jumpy.
Aye, it's all a bit weird, but anyway, it's happening. So he's in the tournament, but he is the reigning flyweight champ. He's a former stadium champion in Thailand. To non-Thai boxing fans, that probably doesn't mean that much, but to be a stadium champion is like you're the best of the best in Thai boxing. There was only a handful of Westerners have went to Thailand and became stadium champion, so that's a big deal over there, man. He was the Omnium Stadium champion at £130. Which is obviously it's very close to the weight he fights at now as a flyweight, £125. And he was also the Max Muay Thai champion over there as well. So total legend, only 24. So he does have, in theory, years ahead of him, but he also does have 320 fights under his belt in Thai boxing, which, for a 24-year-old to have 320 fights is insane.
Literally boggles the mind.
Aye. I mean, I don't even know how to approach the maths to figure out how often he must have fought to get that number. You know what I mean? Like, he must have been fighting once or twice a month for a few years.
What age did he start fighting, do you think? Let's see.
He's probably started training at 10 or younger, I would... You know what I mean?
Right, what age do you think he had his first fight? Oh, should we just say 12?
The first fight in his pro record's 2013. So that's what, 8 or 9 years ago at 24. So like 15, 16, he started fighting pro.
Right. And how many fights did you say he had?
320.
320.
He's listed as having 320 fights. Obviously,
So if
there
you're
isn't,
doing it
there
for
isn't a record of all his fights. You know what I mean?
Aye, but
'Cause-
that's just his. So he would have to fight. He would be fighting nearly 3 times a month for the past 9 years
God.
to have that many fights.
It's aye. It is literally mind blowing the way they approach it in Thailand, man. It's just a different thing altogether.
Aye.
Aye, let's not get into that too much, right? We'll focus on the
Let's
question.
go
at
back
hand.
to the question.
Jimmy.
So, aye, over to Harvey. Rodtang at 24 with already 320 Thai boxing fights under his belt. Is it possible that he could transition to MMA and do well?
Well, spoiler alert, he is transitioning to MMA. Can he do well? I think he can. If he takes the time, trains properly, he's still 20, he's only 24. Maybe even a year, 2 years of training. Like wrestling, BJJ, to work on his grappling and stuff. I don't think he definitely doesn't need that much work on his striking ability. So, it's just the ground game he needs to kind of work on. I think he could be successful if he takes the time and does it properly. I'm sure he will. And then what's the next part of the question?
Is it worth it though? Will he be loved
Is
in
it
America?
worth
Will he find huge success, or will he be hampered by his size?
That's if he goes to America. He might not even want to go over there.
Aye, that's also
Because
true.
he's signed with one, right? So
Also true.
if he stays over there, he still has his backing from his Muay Thai people. I'm sure will watch him in the MMA. He'll have new fans there as well through watching him in MMA. I think he would have relative success if he went to America. I think it would be exciting for him to. I mean, he would. Do you think? I probably would stay at the flyweight, wouldn't he? It's an easy jump up to bantamweight as well. But anyway, he'd bring some excitement to those weight divisions in the UFC at least. Be pretty cool to see him. I think he would have some love in America, just purely because he's a master in the striking game. So if he could keep it on the feet, folk would love him because I'm sure that he would bang out a few folk. And what was the next part of the question?
That was it. Really, would he Would he find success? How would he do? Would he be loved?
Aye, I think he would be loved. I think he would be loved, especially by the American fans, where a lot of them are casual fans who just want to see a good scrap. So, as I say again, if he could keep it on his feet, on the feet, sorry, he would have a few fans over this side of the world.
Fair play, mate.
For sure.
Before I kind of speak on the question, listen to this sentence. I've looked up his biography, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rodtang had his first Muay Thai fight at the age of 8 to make money and help his family.
Well, there you go.
At 14, he moved to Bangkok to join the Jitmong gym. So that's where his name comes from.
Right. So that is
So he's
not
Rodtang Jitmong. That's his,
that's the
fight name,
the
his
gym
given name for fighting.
Right.
Yep. His birth name was, now I'm obviously going to butcher this, but his birth name was something along the lines of Tinakon Sirishirawa.
Oh, right, okay.
Something along the lines. But he's obviously known now as Rodtang Jitmongyong.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even know if I'm saying that right. But aye, that's just, talk about mind blowing, man. Good God.
Mm-hmm.
So he's definitely young enough, and he's definitely athletic enough that he could learn the necessary skills to transition to MMA successfully. But at the same time, he's had a lot of fights and no doubt taken a lot of punishment.
I see. I never thought of that.
So the question is, how long does he want to fight? It's very rare that you'll find a Thai boxer that fights past 30. Very, very rare.
Right.
They have so many fights when they're young. They usually, by the time they're 30, usually they're retiring and they're becoming trainers.
So you go early, right?
I don't know, maybe he's a new breed, maybe he's got a different way of thinking and he's going to approach things a bit different, fight a bit less now and keep going for a bit longer. I don't know. I think the wrestling is going to be the problem. I think he can learn enough grappling, jiu-jitsu, whatever he wants to focus on. I think he can learn enough that he can defend himself against sort of anybody that's kind of mid-table. Once you go to the guys that are elite grapplers, he's going to have problems because he's spent years striking, but you know what I mean, it's going to take years of grappling to get to that high level. But the biggest problem that he'll face is the wrestling, because if he comes up against anybody who's been wrestling longer than him, unless he's somehow a prodigy at wrestling, then he's going to be open to getting taken down and held on. I think in one, that's less of a problem. If he decided to try and go to America, whether it was Bellator, UFC, whatever, he's more likely to run up against good wrestlers. That's not to say there isn't good wrestlers in one, but obviously, you know, America's just much more known for having more, or I should say American MMA is much more known for having high-level wrestlers. I don't see him ever becoming a big star in America and in the West in general, if I'm being honest. He's not got the size, the look, the English, you know what I mean? Not to be harsh on him, but like if you just look at who tends to become stars in America and in the West in general, it's no 5'6" guys for Thailand. It just isn't.
I was wondering. Aye.
However, one is a massive platform in Asia. And Rodtang could be the poster child of flyweight combat sports for Asia. You know what I mean? He could be the cream of the crop in MMA and Thai boxing and kickboxing all under one if he wanted to. And I'm sure that names went out of my head. Chadri, the boss
Chappy.
man. I'm sure he would be more than happy to, because obviously he is already a massive star in Thai boxing. He's now got a much bigger name and platform because of the mixed rules fight with Demetrius Johnson. He's a star across the board in the making, for one. So I can see him having a certain amount of success there under the one banner. I'm not saying he'll never try and fight in America or anything, but I don't see him having success in terms of star power in the West. But I'm very intrigued to see what he can do now. I'm curious to see what kind of skill set he can develop in wrestling and in grappling, because obviously as the striking, he's going to have a striking advantage against anybody he comes up against in MMA. He just is. You know what I mean? There's no argument.
Aye, I agreed. I mean, that's one thing we noticed with the experiment with Demetrius was Demetrius survived him for the first 5 rounds. That his mission wasn't to fight him; it was to survive him.
Yeah,
and then uses obviously his background, which is in MMA. I mean, I think that's it. And am I right? Would I be wrong in saying Demetrius was probably one of the best ever at his kind of weight division in UFC?
He's certainly one of the best ever.
Aye. So I mean, that for me says it all. That's somebody who's one of the best ever in an experiment fight against this guy, and this guy has him no running for 5 rounds, but trying to just keep alive for 5 rounds. Sorry, for 5 minutes. Just trying to keep alive for 5 minutes against him. Like, that shows you how dangerous this boy is. But thanks for that, lads. That was awesome.
Just one last thing before we leave that there. Thai-born Thai boxers do not have a particularly good track record in MMA. There is a few who have tried to transition, specifically over into Western promotions, and and they've generally speaking no fared well. That doesn't mean that Rodtang can't do well in MMA, but there is no examples of this is what he can do. He would be like breaking new territory if he was to be really successful in MMA. But anyway,
Be interesting to see.
As always, thanks for the question.
No problem, fella.
Let's swing it on back to the recaps and take a look at UFC Vegas 55. So last night for us, May 21st, the main event was Caitlyn Vera versus Holm. And in general, pretty fun fight card, I've got to say. You guys kept abreast with the action?
As always, I've chased the knockouts and looked at the fights that didn't go the distance like a classic casual fan does.
Yourself, Harvey?
Seen a couple. Oh. Sorry.
Seen a couple. I don't really know where we go here. Let's cover the highlights. Chase Hooper defeating Felipe Colares. That was a third round stoppage. Chase Hooper looked good. He's somebody that's had sort of potential. You know what I mean? He's had a wee bit of buzz about him in his sort of early UFC fights, and somebody that's been looked at as like, you know, maybe one day he'll be really good kind of thing. But like he looked like he was starting to achieve something. Like he's starting to get somewhere now. He looked damn good in that fight. Uros Medic defeating Omar Morales. That was a round 2 stoppage. That was a brutal finish for Medic, I've got to say. Somebody else who looked really good there. I didn't know much, if anything, about him going into the fight, but he looked pretty damn good, man. The Jailton Almeida versus Parker Porter one, that was a strange one. Almeida's a light heavyweight who, for some reason, I never quite caught the reason why, but for some reason was taking a fight at heavyweight. I don't know if he was a late replacement for somebody. I'm not sure. But Parker Porter is a guy who is a legit, like, heavyweight. Like, he's 6 foot, so he's not massively tall, but he's very stocky. Like, he's right up at the heavy. I think he actually has to cut a wee bit of weight to make heavyweight. He's very thick. And Almeida's a guy who, as I say, he's a light heavyweight. He weighed in at like 222 pounds, 224 pounds, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he was sort of lower end of the heavyweight scale, as it were. It was a weird one. Almeida actually won. So he won by submission in the first round, to be fair to him. We then had Joseph Holmes versus Alan Amadowski. That was an impressive win for Holmes.
That really was, aye.
Rear naked choke in the first round. Holmes didn't have too much trouble there.
I just kind of latched on him, didn't he? Quite quick.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Jun Young Park versus Eric Anders. That was a fun fight to open the main card. It was pretty back and forth. I was kind of surprised by the decision there. I thought the fight was going the way of Eric Anders, but it was close enough that I wasn't mad at it. I don't think Eric Anders was robbed or anything. It was just I just happened to think it was going his way.
You feel
Jung Young Park, he's a character, man. He was quite funny when the fight was announced. He was jumping about in celebration, screaming and everything. He's quite a character.
One of the best nicknames I've ever heard, though, the Iron Turtle. What a nickname. What an outstanding nickname for a fighter.
He's built like a bloody turtle, man. Tabitha Ricci, Poliana Viana. It was alright. Not bad
Wasn't
fight.
much going on, really, was it? I felt
It was
back
kind of back and forth fight, wasn't he? Somewhat comfortable win for Ricci. It was, nothing crazy happening. Then we had Chidi Njokuani versus Dusko Todorovic. I was very much looking forward to this. Njokuani was amazing in his debut fight in UFC. Ridiculous power on him. Looked like he was going to get beat, to be honest. For the most of the first round, he was getting out grappled. It wasn't really going his way, but then out of nowhere at the end of the first round, he went into God mode and landed a crazy over the top elbow.
Oh, he cracked him.
Come over the guard with an elbow, hit him in the temple, and shut off the lights, man.
Oh, God. It was like an off switch.
Aye.
Dropped him.
he just exploded out of nowhere. Just absolutely floored him. When that guy puts it all together, when he sort of rounds out the skill set, he's going to be a beast. He's going to be hard to stop.
Fight.
He has so much power. He has good striking, no amazing, but good striking, good straight punches. He's fast, he's explosive, crazy power, big and strong for the weight class. He just needs to sort of round out the grappling side of things. Co-main event was Michelle Piera and Santiago Ponzinibbio. Not the fight that I was necessarily expecting or hoping for, but still a really fun scrap. Back and forth right the way through. Could probably have went either way. I feel like Piera was the sort of cleaner striker throughout, so I'm no mad at him winning, but Ponzinibbio was busier, and he was pretty miffed that he didn't get the decision, so I can see either way in that one.
I kind of sided more with Pereira, to be honest. But again, like you're saying, I expected madness here, and it was a good fight, but I was expecting craziness. Still, hey, well done, Pereira, man.
Anytime Pereira fights, you expect. Well, it was alright. It was still a good fight though. A lot back and forth. I think Pereira did enough to deserve the win there.
I do remember bringing this up at the last time we were talking about Pereira. Was would he start to become less risky as the fights mean more? So obviously Ponzinibbio is a ranked fighter, so I would imagine now Pereira goes into the ranked kind of list. So goes close. I think Ponzinibbio was 14th, I think, going into this. I thought I saw
14th.
I thought Pereira was already in the top 50.
I don't think Pereira was ranked, but he will be now, obviously.
Aye. They're both up there, in my opinion, anyway. So they should both be ranked top 15. Both of them have been on good runs, so they have. They've been making waves. Piera, his last couple of fights, he's been more reserved. He's toned his style down a wee bit.
It's starting to get serious.
He's matured a wee bit in that sense. But I don't know. I just wanted that kind of crazy war that it could have been. You know what I mean? If they two had fought like 2 years ago, it would have been one hell of a war. But the two of them was just sort of settled in that wee bit. It was pretty non-stop throughout the fight, but it wasn't Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Not quite as mad.
It should have been Acrobat versus Rock'em Sock'em Robot, I suppose. But so I mean, I suppose it was a night of the close decisions. The main event was, as I say, was Caitlyn Vera and Holly Holm. Caitlyn Vera getting the split decision, but there are those who seem to think that Holly Holm should have got that decision. I don't know what to think, if I'm being honest.
I don't know. There's actually quite a lot of folk out there that think that she should have got that. Again, I'm the same as you. I'm not really sure about that, but
there was a lot of points in the fight where they were just kind of against the cage and not that much happening. They seemed to kind of cause each other a bit of a stalemate. They met each other at a bit of stalemate. I don't know the right way to say that. I don't know. Like,
you think at 40 this is home past it now? You think she's done?
I was wondering if I feel like she probably had like one more run in her. You know what I mean? Like, she probably could have made her case to get one more title shot, either 145 or 135, but losing that fight is going to be tough now. You know what I mean? She's basically starting from scratch again. She needs to rebuild again. It just depends how much she wants it. You know what I mean? She's a former world champion in boxing, kickboxing, and MMA. Like, she's got a hell of a career behind her. So
no many can say that. God.
I don't know. I don't know where she goes for here, to be honest. She's not really been winning consistently by stoppage for a long time. You know what I mean? There was a time where, whether it was by punch or by kick, she was winning by KO or TKO in every fight or every second fight. It's not so much that anymore, partly because she's fighting a higher calibre of opponent, but also partly, I think, just because of the stage of her career she's at. She's changed her style a wee bit. She's less aggressive, uses grappling a lot more. So I think it's a lot is going to come down to what she wants to do. you couldn't be mad at her if she wanted to call it a day and just sort of settle down and start a family or whatever.
Do a thing,
But aye, we'll see what the future holds for her.
aye.
It was a no bad fight. It just kind of stalled out a few times, and I don't know what way I would score it. It was a hard one to score, I thought. But yeah,
I mean, I think it was the right decision.
That's what Harvey thinks.
I mean, it was very close. Like it was, but I think Caitlyn just did enough.
Yeah. So
in the end,
while we're getting Harvey's opinion on things, how's about we have a wee Harvey's highlight?
Ew. I don't know if it's well, it kind of is, but have you guys seen the kind of fallout with Josh Taylor and the WBA?
I haven't really know.
I've seen some bits yet.
So the WBA came out and said that they've
Stripped
the
him.
belt off him. They've stripped him.
Yep.
And it's now vacated.
Yep.
Josh Taylor wasn't happy with this and made it known that he was the one who vacated the belt, right? And then I guess he wrote to the WBA or whatever, like put in a complaint, whatever it is, and then they've sent a letter back to him and to clarify everything, and then they've put a statement to clarify everything as well.
Right, okay.
With Josh Taylor, he said that he didn't want to delay a fellow fighter from fulfilling his dreams because he couldn't take the fight against Puello, who was the mandatory contender. The only reason why he couldn't was because he had his weddings in the summer as well as his honeymoon.
Right.
So that was his reason not to fight, which is
he's not looking to fight until later in the year.
Aye, which is a valid reason not to fight Alberto Puello. So he said, I can't do it. And they said, well, if you don't do it, this, and they were like, right, I'll vacate it then. And like, and then they've come out and no.
Jumped the gun.
It's like, why have you said, like, why is the WBA coming out and saying we've stripped them? Like, why? This is aye.
The governing bodies of a sport shouldn't be getting political or bitchy or anything else on social media or media in general. You know what I mean? They just shouldn't. They should be like effectively running on autopilot. You know what I mean? Everything should be methodical and well written and well said. It's weird situation.
And then the other thing with that is why is the WBA insisting when they like, okay, yeah, he's got his wedding and that, but like we can move it back a little. It's just straight up, nope. You're gonna fight then. If you're not fighting, then that's.
They get it's weird that way as well. I mean that happens across all weight divisions and with all of the governing bodies. They, for some guys, they'll give months and months between defences, but yet other guys, they're like, if you don't sign this fight by 2 weeks time, we're going to strip you. Like, wait, hold on, what? Like, that guy just said 9 months without a defence. I only won the belt 2 weeks ago. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? It's weird how it works. It really is. Boxing's a strange sport behind closed doors, man.
That's a statement.
So, I mean, it looks like Josh Taylor's going to be moving up in weight anyway. So, I don't think he's too much bothered by it, to be honest. He's just like, I
kind of feel like it should just be like making it. I mean, I get right, okay, maybe he's in wedding mode or whatever, but I feel like he should just be making a public statement saying like, I'm moving up in weight class. I'm taking a break, got my wedding, blah blah blah. I'm vacating all the titles. I'm looking to come back and fight in, let's say, October. And I'm hoping to challenge either Blah or Blah for the title at... What is he moving up to? Lightweight? I don't remember. It was like...
Question.
I can't remember.
He's moving up to 147, from 140 to 147.
Yeah, I remember that much, but I don't remember what the classes are called.
Aye.
I say 147 is lightweight. That's my gut instinct. Yeah, that he was lightweight and he's moving up to super lightweight. Man, boxing, why'd you have to make things complicated?
Nah. Welterweight. He's moving up to welterweight.
Ah, okay.
So he was super lightweight, now he's
super
went to
lightweight.
welterweight.
Right, okay. Ah, dear. Aye, I don't know. Bit of a shambles, but nevertheless, man, power to him. He's taking the summer off, and we'll see what he can do a weight class up.
Yeah, enjoy your wad and all, boy.
Okay, well, I would say let's look ahead to next week before we wrap it up, but all I've got on next week is that we've got UFC Vegas 56 on, well, it's not even next week, it's the week after, but UFC Vegas 56 on June the 4th. But at this moment in time, there is a grand total of one fight announced for that fight card. And that is Alexander Volkov versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. So it's a good fight, it's an interesting fight. But why there's only one fight announced when it's like less than 2 weeks away, or at this point, it's just mind-boggling. I do not know what's happening in the UFC currently.
It's going to be a surprise.
Aye. So it's just all going to be jokers. It's all wild cards. Aye, I don't know what they're doing. But, I mean, it's June 4th, so we should have another episode of Combat Spuds before then, so hopefully we can do, seeing as there's no much on next week, I'm thinking possibly just like a full breakdown of what's coming the following week. There'll be a one event, I believe, that following week. It'll be 158, Pacho versus Brooks. So we'll have that to break down. That's happening on the 3rd of June. So we'll have that, and we'll have the UFC, and we'll see what else is happening. So, until then, if you have been, thank you very much for listening. As always, please share the shite out of. Tell everybody. I have been Mick, they have been Harvey and Paul. If we'd have saying goodbye.
Bye bye, driver.
Share the shite.